listeners, this is Unlock the LSAT, and you're listening to your host, The Key. And I wanted to talk today about recommendation letters. I had spoken about some things relevant to the application process last time, and I wanted to speak on some of the things that you might want to be aware of when it comes to recommendation letters. If you're seeing this and you're still in high school or college, really make sure that you're leaving a good impression on people so that they're actually presenting you the opportunity to ask them for recommendation letters. Some of my own personal best recommendations just came from people actually saying, I'd be willing to write you one before I even needed it. And then that person will be dedicated and timely in ensuring that you have that in the right time period. So that goes right into one of the first important things. You want to make sure you're getting permission from the person that you're getting a recommendation letter from, that they are interested in actually doing this for you. Actually know whether or not they'll be able to say something positive or whether it'll be negative. You never know sometimes. You want to make sure you have solid history with them that is more positive than any type of negative. And also, if you haven't been in communication with them for a while, that there's nothing that would be anything to be of concern as they're writing it on your behalf. So that's one thing, making sure you're choosing the right person, and also the people who haven't really been in the environment to connect with people. Make sure you're developing strong and strategic relationships where you don't have a hard time. And the next thing I'll say is give them plenty of time for things to sometimes happen in their life. Maybe you have a really good person that's interested, but they might have things happening in their life. They might be busy at work. So you want to give them a nice heads up. The other thing is that you want to be mindful of a lot of schools taking on the habit of wanting you to have the recommendation letter dated within a year. So sometimes during this LSAT journey, you might find yourself extending your timeline, and that might be a problem when it comes to your recommendation letters. So you want to make sure you don't ask them too soon, but you also don't want to ask them too late. So that's the thing. Also, be sure to consult your own schools of interest pages to see how many recommendation letters are they needing. Some actually need 0. Some might need 2. Some might need 1. Some might want you to submit 3. Then some of them have caps, I think. I normally max out the caps if it's applicable. So that's something to keep in mind. I think there's sometimes a little bit of an issue with people who have been out of the college atmosphere for a while. It depends on the individual, but I have come across some individuals that they have a harder time connecting with either past educator of theirs or even just getting a supervisor or a manager to write on their behalf. So don't hesitate to talk with the schools about this. I actually recently was, I've done many different applications across many cycles, and I just recently had to let a school know, this is what I have. You have to take it or leave it. And they said that they would make a one-time exception for my particular case. So you need to be reaching out and actually talking with them and seeing if there's any wiggle room with their requests in terms of what recommendation letters you can have and the amounts. And I think that should cover about it all. If that person is willing to share it to you beforehand, that wouldn't hurt. I haven't seen any of the drafts, but just know once you submit it through the LSAT portal, or once they submit it on your behalf through the LSAT portal, you're not going to be able to see what it says. And I did have a post scoop about how an admissions director perceive some of the recommendation letters that I selected on an old application, and she gave me some good feedback because my case is a little bit different, but she did kind of mention you want to be mindful that when you select your recommenders, they can kind of tell a good bit about your character, and that might be good or it might be bad. So really make sure that you're making a solid choice when you decide, I want this person to add a recommendation letter for me. Okay, so before I end this one, I just thought about this. I am a big believer in if you have connections, you should really use them to your advantage. If you happen to be in a family that's connected with people of prominence and they can actually vouch for your character and your work ethic, I don't think that's a problem, especially if you literally work with their organization, either as a volunteer or as an actual staff member. I think that that's a good idea. Some people don't believe in it. They think that it's a flex, but I think it's good. Use your top recommendations. It can only help, especially when you're applying to places like Harvard and Yale. That's prestige in itself. So you should try, if you can, to flex those connections you have, especially when they can vouch for your character authentically and it's not a problem for them to do the recommendation letter on your behalf. All right, so that's gonna be covering about it here, and stay tuned. I'm gonna publish another episode soon. I think I'm gonna be talking about some news I saw from last year about an ABA memo that was sent out. All right, so stay tuned and have a great rest of your day, guys.